from the love of liberty in the fires of hope and prayer, with boundless faith in our destiny, we solemnly declare, side by side we stand, highlands of the blue Caribbean Sea, this our native land, we pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Almighty God, most beneficial and merciful, Creator of the universe and embodiment of divine wisdom and light, we come before you with thanksgiving and praise. May your will be done in our nation as it is in the heavens. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace to always see good, be good, and do good, and the courage to serve the people. Protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity, and inspire our endeavors to find the right solutions to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens. Grant that we may always work together with humility and respect for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country. Live from UNC Battleground, this is the Virtual Report, streaming on all platforms.
A pleasant good evening to our esteemed political leader, the Honorable Mrs. Kamala Prasad Bisesa, MPs, senators, councillors, well-wishers, viewers, and to you, my dear UNC friends and family. Welcome to our UNC Virtual Report. My name is Councillor Adrian Ali, and I'm proud to be the local government representative for the electoral district of Monroe Road, Caroni Savannah. This evening, I'm here with my sister, Ms. Viliana Ramuta Singh, and we will be taking you through tonight's program. Our first speaker is the esteemed Member of Parliament for Couva North, a familiar name not just in the political arena, but also in the entertainment industry. MP Ravi Ratiram has proven himself to be an all-rounded, dynamic individual. Being involved in the party for many years, Ravi currently serves as the party organizer on the national executive. A tireless worker for the people. Let us welcome my brother, MP Ravi Ratiram.
People's revolution, this is the revolution. I want to hear everybody sing.
Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters.
Thank you very much, Councillor Adrian Ali, for that warm introduction. Honorable political leader of the United National Congress and the best Prime Minister this country has ever seen, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, my UNC brothers and sisters, members of the media, and all of you joining us on the various social media platforms, a pleasant good night to each and every one of you. Brothers and sisters, in just about 1 month's time, this country will mark 2 years since the general election of 2020 and 7 continuous years of the PNM in office. And what do they have to show for their time in office, brothers and sisters? Since the PNM became the government of Trinidad and Tobago, they have spent over $393 billion. And I ask again, what do they have to show for spending this amount of money? Have we, the citizens, seen any kind of value for that amount of money being spent? Do we feel any safer today than we were in 2015? Is our business doing any better than we were in 2015, brothers and sisters? Do we feel more empowered with better opportunities, better roads, better drains, better water supply? Since this PNM government came into office, it is like we have taken 10 steps backward in this country. Everything has collapsed under this Keith Rowley PNM. Our roads, our bridges, our jobs, our businesses, the economy, every aspect of society, brothers and sisters, has collapsed under this PNM Rowley regime. Nowhere is safe, and our people are suffering to make ends meet. And this is why I say to you tonight, brothers and sisters, that enough is enough. We must find that common ground, putting our country first, uniting our people to get rid of this Keith Rowley PNM and return the most compassionate leader this country has ever seen, our leader, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. Brothers and sisters, tonight I want to review what this government promised in their manifesto for agriculture just 2 years ago. This is what they had to say, and I quote, "We are clear that there must be a resurgence and rebirth in agricultural production. To encourage investment, we have already committed in 2020 to making agriculture in all its facets a tax-free industry." You hear lie and mamagai? That is lie and mamagai, brothers and sisters. Let us stick up in there, because I want to say that in the first instance, with respect to making agriculture a tax-free industry, that is another deception of Imbert and this Rowley PNM. Because you see, brothers and sisters, under the People's Partnership Government, led by the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, agriculture was already a tax-free industry. So don't come to hoodwink the population and fool the citizens. Even food items, we had VAT removed from over 7,000 food items under the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. But as soon as Rowley and Imbert took office, they returned the tax. And from since then onwards, brothers and sisters, it has just been tax after tax after tax that our citizens are facing under this Rowley administration. They even want to put tax on agricultural parcels of land, but we will deal with that when the time comes. With respect to investment into agriculture, where is it? Where is the investment that you have been promising all along? Our agricultural production has been consistently declining according to the Ministry of Finance year in review of the economy. The contribution of agriculture to GDP has decreased from $1.48 billion in 2015 to $1.28 billion. That is a reduction of $200 million in the agriculture sector under this uncaring Rowley regime. Tonight, I want to challenge Prime Minister Keith Rowley and Imbert to point out just one thing, just a single item in agriculture that is cheaper today than it was 7 years ago. And I can assure you, my brothers and sisters, they will even fail to do that. Just to point out one thing that is cheaper today. Every input factor from animal feed to fertilizer have increased in price under this PNM administration. As a matter of fact, every single thing in the market and on the grocery shelves is also increasing in cost because of their mismanagement and their incompetence. They have failed to put their promises into action. Typical PNM style, or should I say PNM promises that never materialize. That is what they represent, my brothers and sisters. In the same manifesto, they said they would allocate 500 million towards stimulating and incentivizing all aspects of agriculture. And when in the 2021 budget, Colin Imbert brought that 500 million agricultural stimulus package to the Parliament, instead of placing it under the Ministry of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries, Colin Imbert huffed the 500 million and put it under the Ministry of Finance. That is how they put in agriculture at the fore of the development, by treating it with gross disrespect and neglect, my brothers and sisters. This was the PNM red flag that the opposition saw and called them out on. But they duck, they run, and they dance left foot, right foot, Balize style. And what we eventually saw was that nothing from that 500 million stimulus package was used for the benefit of the agriculture sector. They used 10 million that they transferred to the office of the Prime Minister, and another 50 for the payment to NAMDEFCO for the food box, which they discontinued last year, December. And our political leader and the UNC had been calling on them to return the food box, because under this Rowley administration, hundreds of thousands of people have been placed on the breadline, and some families do not know where the next meal is going to come from. Unemployment has soared to a new high under this PNM, but they will refuse to return that food box hamper, despite the calls from the opposition. Now, what is even more sad, brothers and sisters, is that in the current financial year, they have reallocated a further 300 million to that same agricultural stimulus package. And with the financial year ending in 2 months, nobody in the government can account for where that money has been spent. 300 million could have gone towards fixing agricultural access roads, so that our farmers would not have to go back to bison and donkey cart and bull cart to get in and out of their garden. Subsidizing the cost of borrowing to farmers and fishermen by paying the interest on ADB loans, just like what they are doing at the commercial bank, allowing their 1% friends, family and financiers to take interest-free loan for up to 7 years, but they refuse to provide the same financial facility to the farmers and to the fishermen. Brothers and sisters, they could have used that money to properly resource the pre-deal larceny squad, to have suitable accommodation, properly working vehicles and equipment to fight off criminals, making fishing facility like Cali Bay, Orange Valley, Brickfield, Claxton Bay, up in Felicity, even Labrie and Cedrus, making these fishing facilities a safer place for our fishermen by providing proper lighting, CCTV cameras, GPS devices, and Coast Guard base set up there. Imagine up to today's date, after we have lost the lives of 7 fishermen a few years ago, and then just last year, another 2 fishermen died to the hands of piracy out at sea. We are still hearing of piracy attack, where the Lochan brothers just a few weeks ago were attacked and had to swim for 4 hours to reach the shores of Labrie. And what is even worse, brothers and sisters, the Coast Guard in Cedrus and in San Fernando did not even have a working vessel to help these fishermen in distress. That is what this PNM government has brought this country to. What about subsidizing the cost of importing fertilizers, seed, and grains that are used to make animal feed, to keep the price of poultry and other meats stable, or even reallocating some of those funds to the Ministry of Local Government so that our councillors would not have to suffer from the failure of not maintaining these watercourses, to prevent flash flooding to our farmers, to the agricultural plots, and even to some residential plots. But this wicked and uncaring PNM, they do not have a plan, brothers and sisters, none whatsoever. That is why the Prime Minister had to go to Guyana, looking for answers for our food security problem. Brothers and sisters, was it not ironic that just a few weeks ago, Prime Minister Keith Rowley had to find himself in talks with Guyana and other CARICOM countries discussing agriculture and regional food security, when just a couple of months ago, before just where he went to Guyana, he didn't want to hear anything about Guyana. Do you remember what Keith Rowley said back in March this year when my brother, the MP for Naparima, questioned him in Parliament as to why he went to Qatar and not Guyana, what he had to say? He replied, who want to go could go. Well, as my colleague from Sawa, Saddam, would say, like dog eating shame, because he had to put his tail between his legs and he had to go to Guyana looking for answers. But the answers are right here, brothers and sisters. The answers will come if they go directly to those persons who are toiling the land and the sea day and night, rain or shine. And the first thing that these farmers, these fishermen will tell them is that this government has done absolutely nothing to help those in the fishing industry, those in the agricultural industry, in the face of things getting harder and harder, brothers and sisters. I want to refer to an article in the Trinidad Guardian online, dated Wednesday, July 13, 2022. Just last week, bearing the headlines, farmers beg for government intervention as food prices continue to soar. In the article, the Guardian news team visited Namdevco Wholesale Market in Macoya and spoke to farmers from different parts of the country. And let me quote directly from the article what these farmers had to say. Mr. Surindra Ramjag, a sweet pepper farmer from Karatal, said, the price of chemicals, the price of fertilizers increased by about 200%. At the end of the day, it is hard for consumers. The business needs to be sustainable for farmers too. And Mr. Nigel Singh, a cabbage farmer from Arima, said many farmers were not able to cover the cost of production. And the last line in that article states, Guardian Meter tried to contacting Agriculture Minister Kazim Hussein yesterday, but he did not respond to call. So the last Minister of Agriculture threw in the towel because of some kind of land grabbing issues that we are still waiting on Foster to clear the air on. And the current Minister of Agriculture is now MIA, missing in action and cannot be found. Recently, brothers and sisters, we saw the price of baigan being sold for about $74. Now, it was eventually identified as a labeling error. But how many errors have gone unnoticed? Tonight, I want to make and highlight the point, brothers and sisters, that we need to support our neighborhood farmers by buying directly from them whenever and wherever possible. Because the recent escalation that I have seen in prices of local fruits and vegetables at some supermarket is highly unreasonable. And while I have no personal issues with those supermarkets, I want to say to them at the same time that they have a responsibility to ensure that there is no price gouging taking place. Because earlier today I conducted an experiment myself. I went to the market and bought a few things and then priced those same things at the supermarket. Let me share with you, brothers and sisters, the result. For things like lettuce, one head of lettuce, at the supermarket it was priced at $14, whereas at the corner shop vendor it was $7. Things like pak choy, where we had 3 head in a bundle selling for $17.50. That same pak choy by the vendor was being sold for $10. And things like bodi, which was being sold for $10 by the vendor, was being sold for $14 in the supermarket. Tomatoes was being sold for $17.50, while in the corner shop it was being sold for between $10 to $12 a pound. And the list goes on with things like pimento being sold at $22.68 per pound in the supermarket, but by the vendor on the side, it's being sold for $10 a pound. So brothers and sisters, tonight I urge you to buy local. And by buying local, I mean to support the small farmers who sell from tables outside their house or the little neighborhood vegetable stall. Go to the market and get your fresh vegetables, local fruits, meat and fish by supporting our local market vendor. So in closing, I am reminded of the saying, charity begins at home. We need to be more proactive. We need to support our farmers and our fisherfolk if we are serious about managing our food security. This is where it all starts. Forget the cluelessness of this Rowley-led PNM who only care of themselves, their friends, families, and financiers. Clearly, after 7 years of doing absolutely nothing but blame Kamla, blame COVID, pay lip service, and make excuses, they do not hold the answers. There is only one party that has ever held the answers, and that is, brothers and sisters, the United National Congress, led by the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. So I urge you, my brothers and sisters, to stand strong and stay united as we seek to form the next government of Trinidad and Tobago and rescue this country from this wicked and self-serving led Rowley administration, to return good governance and to return our leader, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar, as our next Prime Minister. I thank you very much for this opportunity. Long live the United National Congress, long live our political leader Kamla Persad-Bissessar, and long live you, the beautiful citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
Democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution. Come on people, come on people, revolution. People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy.
Thank you, MP Ratiram, a very hard-working and fiery party organizer. Good evening, political leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar, SC, all MPs, senators, councillors, activists present, and a special good evening to my San Fernando West family. Our next speaker is a communications and public relations professional who is passionate about public service and the development of Trinidad and Tobago. She holds a law degree from the University of London and is a graduate of St. Joseph's Convent in San Fernando. In the past few years, she has demonstrated that she has what it takes to follow through with our leader's vision and passion for educational development. Please put your hands together for the Member of Parliament for Tabakit, Miss Anita Haynes.
Now it's time to take a stand, yeah. Come on! Cause this is the revolution, the people's revolution. This is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution.
Okay. Good evening to the political leader of the United National Congress, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. A special good evening to my parliamentary colleagues and the esteemed members of the UNC gathered here today. And a very special good evening to you, the people of Trinidad and Tobago, who tune in week after week as we in the UNC continues to hold the government to account at our virtual meeting. I stand here today as a proud member of the United National Congress, a party that has always put the education of the people of Trinidad and Tobago first. And it is because we believe that it is the most important investment that any government can make, any right-thinking government can make, is in the people of its country. We know that a society that seeks to maximize equitable access to opportunities, and I want to stress equitable access to opportunities, It isn't sufficient to put things in place to make announcements and announce program after program when certain sectors of our society remain unable to access those opportunities. Quite simply, it would be a mama guy. A society where you can be from the rural part of the country or the urban part of the country, and you know that there is a space for you to succeed, for your family to do better generation after generation. That is the measure of a developed country. And there can be no question that over the past 7 years, what we have seen is regression. We have had a PNM administration committed to mama guy in the public. They have taken our country backwards. You can see it everywhere, from the state of our roads, decaying infrastructure, vacuous and visionless, shallow policy making. Our country is literally and figuratively falling apart. And if that is not enough, this government wants us in the UNC and the people of Trinidad and Tobago to stay quiet, to remain mum on the issue of failing the next generation of Trinidadians and Tobagoans. Imagine that we have to stand here today in 2022 with an ILO study telling us what we've all known before, that the digital divide is affecting some Trinidadians and Tobagonians more than others. Imagine that a PNM government they came into office in 2015 with all of the inputs to go forward. There was a laptop program in place, there was a policy decision for ICT in the schools, there was a plan to take Trinidad and Tobago from analog to digital. And you know what they did? They scrapped it. They ignored all good advice, they ignored the policy that they had, they ignored what was in place, and they said, you know what? We want to go backwards. As a matter of fact, in my motion in Parliament, when I sought to raise the issue and give the space for this Minister of Education to address the failings of the ministry, what did we get? We got arrogance, we got incompetence, and an inability to admit to their failures. So I join tonight with the stakeholders, with the ILO, with all the right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago to reiterate the need for proper ICT infrastructure in our schools. The training of teachers, the revision of the education delivery methods, all of these things to integrate technology, that is what we should be talking about. Instead, when they talk about digitization, they're talking about a ministry that, as far as we were aware, as of the budget last year, had no website. The Ministry of Digitization was not online. Imagine that. And so there is no denying that these backward policies have had an impact. The policies that have been scrapped by the PNM administration, I'm talking about not just the laptop program, but things like changes to the curriculum that brought more students to the chances of academic success. They will remove the playing field that Dr. Tim Gopi Singh, under the guidance of Mrs. Kamala Prasad-Bissessar, tried to create a level playing field, equitable access to opportunities. All of that was gone. One fell swoop gone. And that's why I say they brought a new Minister of Education, hoping we'd forget the old one, and that we'll take solace in the fact that it's just a new person, and that meant new ideas. But if you're new and you are committed to the same old ideas, the same backward policy making, the results would be the same. And ladies and gentlemen, we are seeing the results today. And don't let anybody fool you. I am hearing them tell us and start the narrative that it is the COVID-19 pandemic. Oh, COVID, it affected all of us. It affected the SCA students. Well, then how do you account for the fact that the results were already getting bad by 2017? So we went from the heights of successes in 2014, where you had below 4% of the students scoring under 50%, to going up to 17, 19% in 2019, and you kept going up. And now in 2022, all of a sudden we shocked, and it's COVID. There was no COVID in 2017. There was a PNM in 2017. But there was no COVID in 2017 when the results started to decline. And so they resort to their usual blame mechanisms, blaming everybody but themselves. But if the results that we are seeing, they come from something. They come from the deliberate decisions born out of a PNM cabinet. And if the minister would just be honest, if you would be honest as to what changes you all have made and the results that we are seeing now as a result of those changes, then we can fix the problem. But if you are resolute in denying that there's accountability for government policy, there is no fix in sight. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, the knee-jerk response of a vacation program, the idea that 2 years, 3 years, 7 years of a problem can be fixed in 1 month is ludicrous. And I don't know. Apparently the PNM thinks they're the only ones who bright. So they're brighter than everybody. They could tell us, in 1 month we'll sort this out. And then what happens? What happens to these students after the 1 month? Who is going to monitor and evaluate the progress, not just of these students, but of all students? Because we are seeing similar results at the CSEC level. Similar results, fewer persons going into advanced learning for a number of reasons, including significant cuts to the tertiary education space. Listen, everybody knows that if you want to govern for a developed society, you have to think generations ahead. You cannot govern today for today. You cannot say that I'm putting in place a solution to a problem and we'll solve it today and hope for the best tomorrow. That is backward governance. You have to put things in place to ensure that future generations of Trinidadians and Tobagonians are able to succeed. That is taking long-term initiatives, not knee-jerk responses, and then telling us that is a solution to a problem that you created. And let us not forget, in this entire conversation right now, as it is taking place, there is no mention of our students with special needs. They remain a forgotten space unless we bring it up. They remain within the system, but not embraced by the system for the more opportunities that they need to succeed. Because it's not just about surviving, you know. Governance is supposed to help you to thrive. It is supposed to build a better society. Instead, we are living today for tomorrow. And that is as a direct result of the failing approach of this PNM governance. I want to turn to our teachers, because the teachers have had it hard. Can you imagine? One of the first announcements of this Minister of Education was to tell aspiring young people in this country, no bother to apply to teaching service, no space here. There are vacancies, but don't bother to apply because they are incompetent and unable to fill the vacancies and to go through the system with the Teaching Service Commission. Now, while you are grappling with that, teachers are online as we speak. I have screenshots from Facebook of teachers asking for things like pencils and paint for a classroom, Bristol board if you could donate so they can welcome back their students. These are the same teachers now that you are turning to and asking for volunteers and help in your vacation remedial program. Imagine that. Imagine that you have underserved them during the term. For the last 2 years, you've made cuts to the employee assistance program. You've made cuts to their access to even for mental health help during the pandemic. You've made these cuts, but you're asking them for more. And so now I have to ask the Minister of Education, since you are unable to answer certain questions, is it that you are now asking OJTs to take charge of the vacation program because you are unable to get teachers to sign it, to buy into the vacation program? Now I'll tell you why. I have been in contact with teachers who have completed their interviews, etc., for the promotion exams for the head of department. They have been put on wait list for months, and now there is a quick move to promote. However, they are taking teachers from South and giving them options for schools in Toko and in Grande and the East. So we have to ask the question, where are you putting the teachers who are from these communities? If you are sending people from one end of the country to the other, listen, a little common sense. A little common sense will solve this, you know. So I'm asking the Minister of Education to pointedly answer something, because everything in this ministry is shrouded in secrecy, shadiness, and all we get is pictures of school visits. But you have to tell us how many persons interviewed for the promotions for the head of department, and how many vacancies there are, and as of today, how many teachers have been placed in these vacancies, or how many vacancies you've filled. You see, by answering these questions, and stop hiding, and please, do not hide behind the public service and do your usual deflection and asking. You are a member of the executive. You have a mandate to answer to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. This Ministry of Education, this Minister of Education, has done the opposite of listen and then lead. They have continued to ignore persons. They have left out the Primary School Principals Association, tutor, the Secondary School Principals Association, the National PTA. They don't talk to anybody. So I have to ask, in the let's do this, who exactly is the let's? Who is the group of people you're talking to that if you expect a system to work and to thrive, but you refuse to engage the stakeholders, how are we going to do anything? How are we going to move forward? And so I say to you, people of Trinidad and Tobago, the time has come for us to stand up. The time has come for us to have our voices heard. Look, I know you have been sending us messages, sending my colleagues messages behind the scenes telling us this is going wrong, this is going wrong. Speak up and speak out now, because we are seeing the results of the failures of this administration. And we in the UNC will remain here to serve you. We stand by you and we stand for the right-thinking citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. But it is time for you to join us and speak your truth. That is the only way we'll move forward. And I thank you very much.
My brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution. Come on, people. Come on, people. Revolution. People crying out for justice.
Let's hear it for the brilliant MP, Anita Haynes. Being a secondary school teacher myself, I can surely attest to many of the points raised here tonight. Old ideas and backward policy making under this visionless, wicked PNM government when it comes to the future of our children. It is my honor to welcome our third speaker to the platform. He is currently serving his second term as a UNC Member of Parliament and is a well-known businessman in his community. His presentations are articulate and research-based, and he is the Opposition Shadow Minister of Trade and Industry. Please put your hands together for the Member of Parliament for Mayaro, Mr. Rushton Paray.
Some of them crying out for freedom. Want freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy. Now it's time to take a stand, yeah. Come on! Cause this is the revolution, the people's revolution. This is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Honorable political leader of the UNC, Kamla Prasad Bisesa, all other distinguished members of the United National Congress, a very good evening. Ladies and gentlemen gathered here, those of you at home, and the thousands connected via the World Wide Web, we meet at this virtual forum when Trinidad and Tobago is in its worst economic and social state in 40 years. We are enduring the most brutal hardship of our lifetime because the country is led by a most out-of-touch, mentally weak, and intellectually bankrupt group of people led by Dr. Keith Rowley and the People's National Movement. Since 2015, the real GDP has contracted by 16%. What does this mean? This means that we as a country is producing less. To the man on the street, it means that his pockets are feeling the pinch of higher prices. His job opportunities have dwindled, and a greater sense of despair and hopelessness now threatens his family's survival. As a result, our national debt is so high that the Rowley government has mortgaged the lives of our children and grandchildren to service these loans. When Mrs. Prasad Bisesa was Prime Minister, the foreign reserves were US $11.5 billion, one of the highest in the world for a small island state. Under this Rowley-led government, the energy sector continues to decline. Point Lisas is becoming a white elephant, and energy services companies are struggling to stay afloat. This Rowley-led administration has sent up the cost of fuel 4 times, while there have been meaningful efforts to restart Petrotrin at a time when the refinery can earn us precious foreign exchange. Today, due to this government's disastrous policy making, 7 years later, we are still importing most of what we eat because the government has blatantly neglected the agricultural sector as exposed by MP Ravi Ratiram. Under this PNM, Trinidad and Tobago have become the least attractive business investor destination in the Western Hemisphere. Haiti, the poorest nation in the hemisphere, ranks better than Trinidad and Tobago, thanks to Minister Imbert and Prime Minister Rowley. Under Mrs. Prasad-Bissasa's leadership, foreign direct investments amounted to $10.38 billion, the highest in Trinidad and Tobago's history. Her government created an enabling environment for investors. The last time the minimum wage was reviewed was by Mrs. Prasad-Bissasa's government. Public officers today are still expected to live and thrive on 2013 salaries while inflation is rising each month. Mrs. Prasad-Bissasa had brought price relief on food staples through various means. She had given special support to the elderly, the sick, and single parents. A reconfiguring of the URP saw single parents with children with autism, cerebral palsy, and other critical illness earn a stipend a day to stay home to take care of these children. That is what caring leadership looks and feels like. Recently, a report presented by the Commonwealth Foundation, a non-partisan think tank focused on public policy, stated that in 2020, over 20% of Trinidad and Tobago citizens live on or below the poverty line. The report also stated that 11% of the population is undernourished. And for information, the food poverty line index for Trinidad and Tobago is $8.22 per day. So what that means is that these people cannot afford 3 square meals a day or to even buy essentials like medicine. So let that sink in for a minute. 20%, which is equal to about 300,000 citizens, live on $8.22 per day as of 2020. Now that is not the UNC saying this. This is not Kamla saying this. This is an independent research organization that has presented that data. My friends, growing up, my mother always told me, if you fail to prepare, then prepare to fail. That simple yet profound statement is something we can all agree with. So it is clear that through their inaction, lack of preparation, lack of policies, this PNM government is telling the citizens of our nation that they are fully prepared to let the nation fail as long as they can enrich themselves, their friends, and their finances. That is their true plan. Business people and homeowners today now have to invest in armed personnel and security equipment to try and stay safe. How does 13 murders over a weekend encourage foreign investment? How does the tear gassing of citizens in Queen's Park West create a climate for the safety of foreign wealth and assets? Our roads are in the worst condition in the Western Hemisphere. Landslides and broken down bridges are a dreadful fact of our daily lives. Communities in the southeast coast can collapse into economic ruin if critical and urgent repairs are not executed immediately on the Naparima-Miaro Road. The Naparima-Miaro Road is the only thing collapsing faster than this government, ladies and gentlemen. The lack of dredging on our waterways and the overall neglect of our infrastructure is not only causing floods and wrecking homes, but crippling farm production, thus driving prices up. My fellow citizens, there have been no efforts to steer the economy away from its dependence on the declining energy sector. The manufacturing sector has been appealing for various support and incentives to expand production. We need to make the e-tech parks more non-energy export oriented. We simply need to boost foreign exchange. Tourism remains a non-starter, while all other Caribbean destinations are again thriving after the COVID-19 lockdown, we are firing our tourism experts because they refuse to engage in acts of corruption and malfeasance. It is no wonder why a watered-down version of the procurement legislation will remain hidden from the sanitization of daylight. My brothers and sisters, that allows them to hand out huge contracts to their friends and financiers without taxpayers knowing the facts. As you are aware, after successive years of economic mismanagement under Minister Imbert, prices took a massive jump as a result of the supply constraints out of Europe. Combine that with climate change, higher cost of fertilizers, and shipping issues have created the perfect economic storm. Many international organizations are including the words famine and malnutrition in their prediction for the coming months. Now, what does this mean? This means there could be widespread starvation and hunger away and at home. It means some students would not be able to achieve their full potential in an already collapsed education system should their proper dietary needs not be met. We advised in the parliament, we advised this government in and out of the parliament about the state of affairs and begged them to take urgent and critical steps to improve food production. But as of today, the government remains asleep at the wheel. Our 2020 National Transformation Master Plan outlined key strategies in making our country self-sufficient for food production. In that master plan, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar gave the assurance that the minute the UNC returns to government, we will immediately lease 25,000 acres of former Caroni lands to create agricultural parks. Lands in strategic areas will be contracted to registered farmers and private sector investors to plant food. The government's annual public sector investment program, the PSIP, would be used to improve agricultural access roads, drainage, irrigation for these agricultural parks. The agricultural insurance protection system will be developed to support farmers to combat losses due to erratic weather patterns spurred on by climate change. Brothers and sisters, these form just an outline of a holistic program to boost food production, to provide nutritious meals and reasonable prices to our nationals. Brothers and sisters, there is also an urgent and critical need for fiscal strengthening. This must be a critical component of the 2022 fiscal plan going forward. The government must take the necessary steps in establishing a rules-based fiscal framework. This suggestion is being made against the backdrop of 12 consecutive years of fiscal deficits and a ballooning ratio of transfers and subsidies. Many countries today now use fiscal rules to maintain a straight and narrow path to fiscal discipline and proper economic management. The number of fiscal rules per country have increased in the last 2 decades to an average about 3. In Trinidad and Tobago, the government must look to establish a fixed ceiling debt and servicing target, an overall balance rule, and an expenditure rule that is going to constrain and put in a boundary the way governments have to operate in terms of dealing with fiscal measures. This will be legislated, allowing for a stronger legal basis to make fiscal rules more durable and credible. Many countries today have gone as far as to put in place formal enforcement mechanisms in order that rules will span successive governments into the medium and long term. My friends, I want to just change a little bit about a current issue. I want to remind you of an article written by Curtis Williams in the Business Guardian in 2021 entitled, "It is time for Imbert to go." And it reads like this: "Colm Imbert has failed as finance minister. There is no other way of saying it. He must do now the honorable thing and resign, since it is clear that Prime Minister Dr. Keith Rowley will not do so, and he will not do what he must know is in the best interest of the country and sack his finance minister. The fact is, the present minister does not and cannot engender confidence, and that he has any real plan to fix the economic woes. He just does not have the ideas, skills, or open-mindedness to solve problems. The last 6 years have proven that Imbert has already taken us down the road to perdition, with the real prospect of hell facing us unless we do something quickly. The PNM likes to accuse everyone who doesn't support them of being unpatriotic. There's a famous saying by Samuel Johnson, and it goes, "Patriotism is the last resort of a scoundrel." Brothers and sisters, was Minister Imbert being patriotic when he refused to follow the law and for 2 entire years hid from Parliament the annual report of the National Insurance Board from the people of Trinidad and Tobago? But do you know who was the patriot? The person who took Imbert to court and demanded he follow the law? That patriot was none other than Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And it is only because of her patriotic actions that those reports are public today. Brothers and sisters, was Minister Imbert being patriotic when he reported in the Trinidad Guardian on September 2nd, 2021, there was a nefarious plan to give indemnity to PNM members on the NGC board after they lost $440 million. That story was exposed by reporter Curtis Williams. This is the same reporter the PNM like to bash over and over again. That reporter, Curtis Williams, he is a true patriot because, as we have seen lately, being a reporter is a hazardous job under the PNM. Is Minister Imbert being a patriot when he laughs that he raised gas prices on poor people and they have not rioted yet? Is Imbert being a patriot when he's effectively forcing poor and middle class families into paying property tax at the worst economic time in our history, while he himself is selling luxury penthouses? Imagine Rowley told this country that the reason we don't have foreign exchange is that doublesmen waste in the foreign exchange. He said that. That is what the government said. According to the PNM, doublesmen wasting foreign exchange, small business wasting foreign exchange, foreign used car dealers wasting foreign exchange. But you know who, according to the PNM, not wasting foreign exchange? There's a foreign company called Cornerstone Financials. Them not wasting foreign exchange. FCB is giving that company a $45 million US loan. But I know my colleague, Senator Mark, our stalwart in the Senate, has been exposing this issue magnificently. So I will leave that for him to do later on. I know he has much more information to say on this matter. My brothers and sisters, there used to be a giant company called Enron, which was committing enormous fraud. That fraud was exposed when a reporter from Forbes asked the Enron executives a simple question: how does Enron make money? Well, that question sent the whole Enron board into panic, because it turned out that Enron wasn't making money. The whole company was just running profit on paper and did nothing. So I have a simple question for Minister Imbert. What does Cornerstone Financial actually do? What productive business are they engaged in? It's a simple question. Very easy one to answer. Surely the minister, if he thinks that giving that foreign company $45 million in Forex is a good deal, especially at a time when local businessmen are struggling for Forex, I'm sure he can answer that simple question. So brothers and sisters, in conclusion, there's so much more innovative ideas to put Trinidad and Tobago back on track to prosperity, but time will not permit. I am totally clear that the PNM and the Rowley-led cabinet is fully appraised of what needs to be done. The problem is they just don't know how to do it. Keep our flags flying high. Continue to mobilize your friends and the community. Let everyone know that better days are coming with the United National Congress. Long live our distinguished political leader and other officers of our great party, our loyal members, supporters, and well-wishers. Long live Trinidad and Tobago. God bless all of you. Have a very good night, ladies and gentlemen.
Everybody saying freedom. Everybody saying, as we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people.
Thank you, MP Paray. And outside of San Fernando West, my second home is Mayaro. So I tell people I have a visible MP and an invisible MP. And MP Paray is the visible one, so you could. Our next speaker has the distinction of being one of the longest-serving legislators in our nation, a fixture in the Parliament of Trinidad and Tobago on the UNC platform. Senator Wade Mark's assertive approach to debating is legendary. We are privileged to have him here with us tonight on the UNC Virtual Platform. Please put your hands together for Senator Wade Mark.
Cause revolution. Come on, people. Come on, people. Revolution. People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy. Now it's time to take a stand. Yeah. Come on. Cause this is the revolution. The people's revolution.
Very much for those kind words of introduction. Our distinguished and illustrious political leader and this country's next Prime Minister, the Honorable Kamla Persad Bissessa, fellow speakers, my brothers and sisters all, my beloved citizens of our great republic. This evening, in the few moments allotted to me, I would like to address and briefly focus on a very disturbing, distressing, and dangerous development that can have far-reaching and catastrophic consequences for our nation if it is not exposed and the drivers of this impending disaster stopped deadly in their tracks. We have in our Caribbean waters a wolf. We call it the killer whale, sailing through the warm waters of the Caribbean, grabbing, hijacking, and surreptitiously taking over key national assets in several territories. These sophisticated and modern-day buccaneers and carpetbaggers have now entered into our beloved homeland, and their eyes are firmly cast and riveted on one of this country's prized national assets. This killer whale is being ably assisted and supported by the four horsemen of the apocalypse located in Port of Spain. The killer whale appears to be the master puppeteer, the main driver, shaker, and mover of many decisions and transactions, negatively harming and injuring the national interests, including the possible sellout, ultimately, of the First Citizens Bank and the telecommunication services of Trinidad and Tobago. My brothers and sisters, we must connect the dots to fully appreciate the full depth and extent of this purported national sellout of our assets and resources by these four horsemen of the apocalypse and their main driver and director. As custodians of the red, white, and black flag, we the people are not prepared to facilitate and or accommodate the full-scale sellout of our country's national assets and patrimony for a song and a dance. It was sometime in 2017 in an island not too far from us and well known for facilitating the incorporation of offshore and shell companies under the complete jurisdiction of law firms where darkness and secrecy are the dominant ingredients of their very operations. In that island, a company known as FinTech Capital Limited was incorporated on the 24th of November 2017. Within a few weeks, it had a name change. It changed its name to Cornerstone Investments Limited on the 19th of February 2018. My comrades and brothers and sisters, between the period 2018 to 2020, moves were made to purchase the shares of a Jamaican registered company known as Barita. It is named after two sisters, Barbara and Rita. The name is Barita. This transaction was realized in August of 2018 when 75% of Barita shares were purchased for some Jamaican $3 billion or US $20 million. The company which conducted this successful buyout had by that time moved to Barbados and had a change of name from Cornerstone Investments Limited to Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. Brothers and sisters, we must note that when First Citizens Bank first entered the Jamaican market in September of 2020, it purchased via what is called an APO, an additional public offering, 5% shareholding, which is equivalent to 54 million shares, valued at 3 billion Jamaican dollars, or the equivalent of US 20 million US in the APU. This was the same amount of money that the Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited utilized in purchasing the 75% share ownership in Barita, making it the single largest shareholder in that particular outfit. So Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited is now the majority shareholder in that company known as Barita. We would like to know, brothers and sisters, what triggered the First Citizens Bank to lend Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited, a privately incorporated offshore company with shares being its main asset, and accumulated some, not of 45 million US dollars, which is a scarce resource in this country, but 85 million US dollars. And this, brothers and sisters, we ask, why? And while FCB was lending US $85 million to its competitor, Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited, the same First Citizens Bank, through the First Citizens Investment Services Limited, was borrowing money at a rate of 2.15% to purchase the same shares in Barita Investments Limited. How ironic. My brothers and sisters, what due diligence was conducted when this decision was taken? Why is the Minister of Finance, as my brother asked earlier, is desperately attempting to defend the indefensible? Who is protecting our depositors at First Citizens Bank? Who is protecting our shareholders at the First Citizens Bank? Who is protecting our customers at the First Citizens Bank? Certainly not the Minister of Finance, whose behavior is quite bizarre and troubling. Does he represent the national interest? Certainly it's not the board of FCB that is doing that, brothers and sisters. I have the names here of all the directors of the board of First Citizens Bank. What are they doing to protect the interests of the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of customers at the First Citizens Bank? What are they doing? What is Isidore Smart doing? Collecting money under false pretenses? What is he doing? We call on Isidore Smart, former Attorney General in the NAR. Either shape up or shape out. Get out of FCB if you cannot defend the interests of the workers and the customers and the shareholders and the depositors of FCB. You have a next fellow called Troy Garcia. What are you doing, Troy? What is Savitri C. Prasad doing? What is Ryan Proudfoot doing? And then the big CEO. She's the real Sawati at FCB. Her name is Karen Dabesi. What are you doing, Karen? What are you doing? We ask this question. If you cannot protect the interests of our depositors, our customers, our shareholders, get out. Get out of the First Citizens Bank and let those who are able to protect the interests of those depositors take over. Brothers and sisters, a curious development took place. On December the 4th, 2020, on the floor of the Jamaican Stock Exchange, FCB, through FCIS, purchased from an unknown broker 12 million shares at a price of 90 Jamaican dollars per share. That's Barita shares. You know, that same day, the 4th of December, 2020, that same share was being traded at at $84.67. Why would the FCB buy shares from a broker for 90 Jamaican dollars? And up to now, we don't know who is the broker. We don't know who is the shareholder. We don't know who bought it. Who caused that 12 million shares to be sold? We don't know. Well, we ask tonight, whose questionable 12 million shares were traded? What was the name of the shareholder? The public needs to know. They have a right to know. Never forget, NCB, Workers' Bank, the cooperative bank known as the Penny Bank, went belly up. And many thousands of ordinary people lost their deposits, their shareholding, every investment. And we brought into being in 1993, the first Citizens Bank. Citizens Bank belonged to us. It doesn't belong to Imbert. It doesn't belong to Rowley. It doesn't belong to Dabesi. It belongs to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So, we ask the Duen of Maraval. We need the minister who seems to be either singing for his supper or is completely reckless and irresponsible in his public utterances, or is he a national traitor to the national interest? I ask. This minister does not appear to be defending the red, white, and black flag and the people of Trinidad and Tobago. When you listen to him carefully, this minister comes across as if he's a director or a shareholder on Cornerstone Financial Holdings Limited. That is how he comes across. Brothers and sisters, he comes across as if his first priority is to defend big business at the expense of the people of our nation. Brothers and sisters, call it what you want. A scam, a scheme, I call it a Ponzi scheme. Right? Like the great train robbery of 63 in London, we have unfolding before our very eyes today the great FCB robbery in Trinidad and Tobago. I will show you and tell you why. I have in my possession information showing where this company called Barita, where it came. Yes, it's 45 years old. Yes, it was born in 1977. You know, when it entered and became listed on the Jamaican Stock Exchange in 2010. Here, the share price of this company, when it came in 2010, began to trade. Look what took place in 2011. 2011, the share price, Jamaican, $3. 2012, $2.99. 2013, $2.49. 2014, $2.18. 2015, $2.20. 2016, $4.20. 2017, $7.75. 2018, $18.69. And brothers and sisters, like some bolt of lightning out of the blue, the share of this company went straight to the moon. It moved from $18.69 to $86.46. That's in 2019. And come 2020, it was trading at $95.87. Well, listen, this company is better than Christ. This is a miracle company. If you can move in 2 years from $18 to $86, and then from another year, $95, we need to invest in that company. Something is wrong. Brothers and sisters, we are asking the question simply, why is FCB involved in this transaction? And I raise one little point with you, and that has to do with who are the real owners of the shares in this company? The shares that we are holding, 90 million shares we are holding. Who are the real owners, brothers and sisters? Is it financial, Cornerstone Financial, or is it somebody else? Because those shares were purchased by a company via a bond called Sagicor Investment Jamaica Limited. So it was not purchased by Cornerstone. They didn't go in the bank. You know how much has invested in Cornerstone? The shareholders and the directors? $6,534. That is what they claim is controlling what? 530 million US dollars in assets. Brothers and sisters, I want to wind up by telling you the following. No action for a bank in Jamaica. They have it with Cornerstone. They have it with Barita. But we don't believe that FCB should go at any extent or at any length to get a bank license simply to open a bank at the expense of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. So, brothers and sisters, in closing, I want to remind you of what our honorable leader did when she was Prime Minister. There was an IPO that was issued under the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. The IPO that was issued by the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar allowed people of Trinidad to have priority on the shares that were purchased. I'll give an example. Employees of FCB, 15% of the shares, 49 million shares. Individual investors who are nationals of TNT, 15%. Registered pension and other trust fund, credit union, cooperative, 25%. Registered mutual funds, Trinidad and Tobago Unit Trust included, that they get 25%. National Insurance Board, 10%. Companies registered in Trinidad and Tobago and other investors, such as Commonwealth Development Corporation, 10%. That was the People's Partnership under the leadership and Prime Ministership of Persad-Bissessar. You know what these criminals have done? They have reversed that policy. And in their prospectus that we have here, hear what these criminals have done. You could come from Mars. You could come from Saturn, from Venus, any part of the universe. The 11 million shares that they have being sold at $50 per share. You and I have to compete with everybody from Poland, from Holland, from Canada, from England, from the United States, from the Caribbean. Our shares are being sold and we have to line up with Polish citizens, US citizens, UK citizens, Canadian citizens to buy our own share. That is treachery. That is a national insult to our intelligence. Brothers and sisters, we must tell the government to go back to our policy. Go back to Kamla Persad-Bissessar's policy. And if you cannot do it, defer that arrangement until you are able to do it. Let the people own their own shares. Charity begins at home, and let the people own first Citizens Bank and not strangers, foreigners, and aliens. I close by calling on the people to stand together, stand united, one party, one leader, one country. Long live the UNC, long live the people of TNT, forward ever, backward never, forward ever, backward never, forward ever, backward never. Thank you.
And this is the revolution. I wanna hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all.
Thank you, Senator Mark, for that very fiery and revealing contribution. Without trying to sell out my age, I remember when he was in the trade union movement, and I used to admire him since then. Our featured speaker is a woman of distinction, and I am extremely proud to call her my political leader. She is a titan who blazed a trail for women in politics and law. Her groundbreaking achievements include being the first woman to serve as Attorney General, Opposition Leader, Chair in Office of the Commonwealth, and Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, a brilliant attorney at law, and a dedicated servant of the people. She has spent most of her life serving our great nation. She holds a BA degree in English and History, a diploma in education, a LLB Bachelor of Law degree, a legal education certificate, and a master's in business administration. This could take all night. She was recognized as Glamour magazine's Woman of the Year. A beautiful woman, received the Spirit of the Americas Award for her commitment to women and children and support to the OAS, and was awarded the Democracy Medal by the 46th World Conference of the International Association of Political Consultants. Her term as Prime Minister saw unprecedented development in education. Our communities were safer. There were less potholes in our roads. Gas prices were lower and food prices were more affordable. With your support, she will return as Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago to continue the good work she started in 2010. Please rise as we welcome the Leader of the Opposition and the Member of Parliament for Superior, our political leader, the Honorable Kamla Pasad Bisesa.
If you cut me, you go see blood. And if you squeeze me, you go feel the love. We are one people under the sun, one nation under the law. So who feel the black? Who feel the white? I don't know. But it's set till tomorrow night. Who feel the wrong? Who feel the right? Come and go. And all who feel the too bright, let me jump up, let me wind up, party non-stop. Ramaje dingo leke kete, we come to play mass. Every creed and class, dole and bass. Like a repetitive, all the love inside away.
First woman Prime Minister, first woman Attorney General, first woman to chair the Commonwealth of 54 nations, first woman Opposition Leader. Welcome KPB Plus, solid everywhere.
Like a repetitive, all the love inside away.
Thank you very much. Good evening, UNC family here and who are tuned in to our virtual once again. Let me thank Viliana for that very powerful introduction. I've shared with you before some of my favorite introductions, and some of you may remember it, but I'll share it again with you. When I was Minister of Education, I would have to attend many school graduations, or I wanted to as well. So I would go to the schools and go to the graduations. And one year I went to a particular school, and the teachers and the students there, they decided they will not have an adult person introduce me. They will get one of his students. Well, now it's what SEA, in those days was common entrance. So 11 plus old boy comes up to the stage. He says, my job here is very simple. All I have to do is introduce Kamla. But I am not going to make a long, boring speech. I will now introduce you to the person who will, Kamla Prasad Bisasa. I have never forgotten that, but the courage and the bravery of the young man always brings a smile to my face. So, Viviana, thank you. Let us all thank Councillor Adrian for sharing with us. Thank all the powerful speakers on the lineup tonight, and I think Wade Mark has, boy, he's going forward. He ain't going backward. He's going reverted, but he just gone clear. Talking about Mars and Saturn and Venus and whatever. Well done, Wade. Well done, Anita. Well done, Ravi Ratiram. And well done, MP Rushton Paray. Thank you all very much. So, good to be here with you. There's so many issues when we come on a Monday virtual to talk about that we do have to select some of them. And today, there's several things I want to share with you, so bear with me. Last Monday, I took some personal time off. And to all those people who are trolling, saying, Amir, listen, I am here, I'm strong, Kamla is here, and my health is fine. Worry about your own health. I am fine. Thank you very much. Right now, we are witnessing across the globe where nations, the people of nations, are holding their leaders to account. We are seeing it in England, which was really the mother of all parliaments there, where we took our pattern and precedents from. And then we saw in Sri Lanka, where again, the members of the country are holding their leaders to account. And this is a lesson for all leaders and for all governments. Governments must be held accountable. Those who represent the public interest must be held responsible for their actions. And today now in 2022, we see our nation is more unsafe, more crime. We see that we are poorer than we have ever been. I think Rushton gave us the statistics about $8 per day and how many thousands of our people are living at about $8 per day. And I thought when I'm listening to him, hey, some living on $0 a day. So 8 is the mean, the average. You know what does that mean? An average, you take the highest, the lowest, you add them together and you divide. So what happens, there's a skewing. If you have some very high up, that skews it and you get $8 a day. So many is $1 or no dollar at all per day. The poverty levels are never as high as they have been today. We see from Anita's contributions about what's happening in our schools, a total failing education sector, clueless, visionless in terms of caring for our children. If there's one thing you know, even before I led our government, even before, under the Pandey government, education was a priority. Education for children was a priority. We had the motto, not one child to be left behind. You all remember that? And not one child was ever left behind. Not one. Not one. And now we are seeing what is happening. I'm sure Ravi would have spoken about agriculture, and the Prime Minister today in his clueless, waffling and waste of time press conference wants to talk about agriculture. When we in the opposition called for us to do more in agriculture, what did he tell us? We don't have the land. Where did you find the land now, Mr. Rory, talking about agriculture? And when people talk to ask him, well, listen, you talk about agriculture, and the farmers are saying they are getting no help. Did you know what that man said? He said, well, we are so much better with technology now, you know. We have a dry season, and we have a rainy season. So we know when the rains come in. So what we must do then? The farmers must go pull out their plants out of the ground because they know the rain coming. Clueless, visionless, and incompetent government. So all our speakers here, and Wade, of course, dealing with that very corrupt regime where some are enriching themselves, their friends and their family, and I'll come back to that in a while. Everyone in our country now, apart from whom, the friends and the family and the finances, everyone else is worse off today than ever before. And what is the reason? If you are to believe Rowley, first of all, blame Kamla. Did it again today. Blame the UNC. Blame Kamla. And he's added to that, blame Rowley, war in Ukraine. blame the COVID, blame everybody else except his own incompetence and the incompetence of his government. That is the answer to everything. And that's the simple reason we hear a war on the working men and women of our country by a very corrupt, ignorant, and uncaring government. And you know, this man is so petty. He totes a grudge, he totes feelings 50 years after the fact. And therefore, are you surprised? His big answer when we thought today he would help us put out a plan to deal with ever-increasing crime, he comes with a 1979 concept of what is it, a public health emergency. And when he's asked, well, what do you specifically want to do? The man waffle and waffle and waffle. But are you surprised? Don't be surprised, and I'll tell you why. This is a man who stood before the nation today. And he said, with respect to the procurement legislation, he says we are, listen carefully, don't get it mixed up, we are dotting the T's and crossing the I's. We are dotting the T's and crossing the I's. When I heard that, I said, good Lord, all hope has gone. Because that's what he did for the entire press conference. He was dotting non-existent T's and what? Crossing I's. Run the video for me, guys. Let's hear
The
this.
very last disappointment I've had is that just as we were about to proclaim it on this very last attempt, it happened to have been the time when a new Attorney General came into office, completely separate and apart from this. One of the first assignments I gave that Attorney General was to ensure that we are in a position to have this piece of legislation proclaimed, because we had come to the point where we think we had dotted as many T's and crossed as many I's and so on.
So our Prime Minister is dotting T's and crossing I's. Are you surprised that we are in the mess that we are in today when he can stand there and say that to the nation? And 7 years later, procurement legislation, you are saying you are dotting the T's and crossing the I's still 7 years later? And he says those naysayers who are saying that the government and the finances are benefiting from not having procurement legislation, that's not true. Instead, he says, we have procurement legislation. Good God, this thing goes back decades, the CTB. All the corruption under that regime. That's why this new procurement legislation was put forward, not by me. It was under my government, but we took all the drafts that were there before, put forward by the Joint Consultative Council, people in the industry and in the construction sector and so on, brought this forward. And 7 years later, you still dotting T's and crossing I's. And then who does he blame? The new Attorney General. He said, well, we just get a new Attorney General. Yeah, so far as 7 years, 6 years couldn't do it. The new one now, he wants to take another 7. But he will not get 7 years inside here. We have to make sure he goes. He goes. He has to go. He has to go. And I'll come back to Mr. Amo in a while. What we have in this country, and we have to understand it so we will know the work we have to do, what we must do and how we must unite to get this country working again. A few months ago when we started the People's Revolution, we had sought in a peaceful way to educate and inform you, as well as the national community, about injustice, about unfairness, about abuse of power, and about favoritism that has and continues to undermine our so-called independent institutions of the state. We call out the independent centers, you remember that, for not being independent. We had rallied against their bias towards or for the ruling party. We had called them out. And I saw something happen with the bail amendment bill recently in the Senate, where some independent senators actually voted against that draconian bail law that they wanted to bring in. Some voted against. Some voted for it, but they did not get the majority that they needed to pass it, so it's not law. But my concern is this. We have a new session of Parliament starting in September. Parliament is now in recess. And my question is this, that those who voted against that bill, whether President, what's her name again? Paula May Weeks, Her Excellency, whether or will go to President's house and instruct her to remove them as senators in the Senate. He did it with the Police Service Commission. He did it with Gary Griffith. And today when they asked him about Gary Griffith, he said, I'm not talking about that. I don't want to talk about that. He said, there's a commission in place and they will do their job. I have nothing to do with that. Nothing to do with that. But the last time you had everything to do with it when you went to President's house and instructed Bliss Sipasad, chairman of that commission, to remove the list. Take it and don't send it back to the Parliament. So we called out those independent senators before. And for those who had the guts and the gravitas, last time I spoke, I said, I wonder if they have the gravitas to resist the temptations of P&M pressure. And some of them did. One of them who came to vote never took part in the debate. He was a temporary senator for that sitting only when the vote was to be taken. His name is Drayton, something Drayton. He never was there for the debate. He just came to vote. And he was replacing whom? A fellow named Senator Vera. I don't know if Senator Vera gave him the instructions how to vote before he left. So Vera wouldn't be the one in there for us to call him out again. And I don't know if he was selected to go in there to cast the vote for the government on that day. There's another one who voted for it with the government. That senator, I am told she belongs to Bishop's Tea Party with all the Bishop's girls, one of whom is Paula May Weeks. Another Bishop's girl is Camille. And if I'm not mistaken, I'll leave the spouse out of somebody at the moment. When I double check it, I'll let you know. And another one who voted for it with the government, voted for the government, with the government on that draconian law, that's one who had some serious questions to answer about relationships in Tobago with a particular financier of the P&M. So you saw the lines, and this is where I want to talk to you about the fairy tale, about the emperor and his new clothes. Many of us grew up reading that in the West Indian Reader and so on. That story was about what we call here, eater food mentality, where you get a position, you get a temporary title, you get a bus route pass, you get access to a cocktail party circuit. People will tell a naked emperor, he looking good in no clothes at all. That's what we have in this country now. A few months ago, we had warned that we had gone into a dark age where the lights of reason, truth, and rationality have been extinguished by pirates, by bandits, by smooth con men who have taken over and infected almost every arm of our state. Our country has now gone backwards, very far backwards, into a kind of feudal society where one small and privileged set of persons, they live off the work and labor of an oppressed majority. We are in a constitutional dictatorship where the Prime Minister is a new king, dispensing favors to his selected aristocracy, the lords and ladies of the P&M aristocracy, friends, family, and financiers. We have a ruling elite that is rotten and corrupt to the core. And what is even more concerning is that this ruling elite has now taken upon itself to bend and twist universal standards of behavior in public life just because it is convenient to them and allows them to eat more food. Then we have a few public commentators. You have to really wonder. They are part of this eater food ruling elite. For many years, they have led public opinion. That is until we got social media. Sometimes I wonder where they live. Maybe in one of those planets we'd call, but not in Trinidad and Tobago. It is amazing that with so much wrong here, they take the time and the words to write about their travels, about issues in other countries. They write about anything other than direct and robust criticism of what is taking place. And you see this feudalism, where our society is divided first class, second class, has been around since colonialism. And the P&M has developed this over the years of the P&M aristocrats. That is what has been ingrained now in our country. If you are part of that ruling elite, you may get away with anything, and your eat-a-food friends will stand up and defend you. Some agents in the media will block for you, and other institutions will not investigate and will not prosecute you. As they say, one rule for them and one rule for everybody else. That is the PNM aristocracy now. Second-class citizens can go to hell as far as they are concerned. They are judged by different standards and are made to wait, to pay, to suffer and endure. And we have to ask, was this the democratic society we set out to forge in 1962? And I turn now to another set of eat-a-food people. I'm sorry I have to use it, but this is like the URP of lawyers now. You know, you have CPEP and you have URP. Well, we have CPEP and URP lawyers in this country. What a shame and disgrace. I witnessed with others on Friday when the Law Association debated a motion of no confidence in Limo, Reggie Limo. Let me say a few words on that meeting. I listened virtually. I am a member of the Law Association, as all lawyers who pay their fees and dues were entitled to attend virtually. I know that the numbers of attorneys who attended was far less than the total number of lawyers we have in the country. Only about 18%, 18 about, attended that meeting. And out of that, 551 persons actually voted whether for or against. These figures show there is apathy and disinterest in the legal profession on important issues. All politics aside, this is a matter of some concern. A strong, vibrant bar supports the rule of law in any country. And today, I want to take this opportunity to commend the brave young lawyers who stood up for justice and the rule of law by bringing this motion of no confidence in disgrace Reggie Limo. In particular, Kyle Taklal Singh and Renuka Rambajan and the team as a whole. I want to thank them for standing up for the rule of law. The vote may not have gone your way, but those of you who spoke and voted on this motion, you can hold your heads high and be proud because you did the right thing. You see, all the others who groveled to Amo and to the PNM in that meeting, they know they have made fools of themselves. Like Amo, they know they no longer have any credibility in the eyes of the younger and the larger group of lawyers in the public. When the transcript of that meeting becomes public, all of TNT will know the truth of what happened, of how supposedly senior counsels embarrassed themselves in their desperation to eat a food. All of Trinidad and Tobago will be laughing at these men. For me, it was hysterical and hilarious to see these seniors and board appointees lining up one after the other to grovel. One by one, these PNM senior counsels and board members resorted to becoming grovelers and beggars to save their money train from the AG and from the government. I was in the presence of young lawyers when we were looking at this virtual meeting, and during the meeting there was raucous laughter from them, but not in a joyous manner, but to see how these persons grovel and demean themselves, persons whom the younger lawyers see as seniors. As someone explained, when you talk about a senior, you don't call them by name, you address them as senior. And there's a reason for that. That's the highest accolade that you can get in the legal profession as a senior. And these young lawyers, looking at this, were most distressed. We saw a creepy-looking young lawyer, no, not so young lawyer, I think his name was Barrett. Not that Barrett, another Barrett. This guy had a little pocket square in his pocket, dressed up like he going to a wedding or a funeral. And you know what he did to defend Amo? He gave a hysterical lecture on the size of European hotel rooms as one of the reasons why Amo couldn't remember what he should remember and what he should have put in the affidavit. That he was in this little hotel room somewhere wherever he was on vacation. That was the most cringeworthy presentation of the lot. Another one said he couldn't remember when he got sick. But he remembered that Reggie Limo is a great man. He's a good boy. And many of them, good boy. I wonder how many defendants will go before court today or tomorrow or next week and say, and bring people to come and say, he was a good boy, he's a good boy. Look, he come and beg for forgiveness. Forgive him now, let him go. When is that going to happen? How is it going to happen? One law for them and one law for everybody else. Which defendant can stand before a magistrate's court or a judge and go to say, well, my Lord, I'm so sorry. Your Honor, I am so sorry. Look, I have Taka here. He knows me from 100 years ago. And Taka comes and says, my Lord, this is a good boy. He's a good boy. Let's forgive him and leave him and let him go. Good boy. Good boy. When you have done such a disgraceful thing, bringing the legal profession, justice, bringing us into international dispute, locally, regionally, all across the globe, an attorney general who goes and lies on oath, and then what you do, say, good boy, it's okay, don't worry, you're a good boy. I know you, we went to school together. Yeah, good boy, good boy, good boy. And I say, these men shame themselves as beggars, and now you have so many people laughing at them. I always knew many of these seniors had no self-respect, but today I thank them for exposing themselves to the entire legal profession as the grovelers and eater food that they truly are. And I say this not lightly, I'll present the evidence to show the extent of the food that they have been eating at the trough of the PNM. I said this to the Law Association, please make the transcripts of that meeting available to members as soon as possible. Let the public see how these big men had no self-respect and made a laughing stock, each of them, of himself or herself. And the whole thing is that, you know, you all may not know, but sometimes birdies drop little things in your air. Sometimes people drop things in your mailbox. It was that Limo saying he was humble. He was humble. I regret it. I did a misrepresentation. I regret it, you know. I'm sorry. He spent the whole week, he and his friends, begging his friends and PNM State Board appointees to force people to vote for him on Friday. That's what they were doing. They were lobbying like it was an election campaign. Many of the young lawyers who voted for Limo told us that they were forced to do so because the PNM was taking names of those who were present, and they were afraid of losing their jobs. Limo, please don't pretend. We know the truth. Everyone is laughing at you and your friends. In my mind, therefore, Limo is not off the hook by any means. He is not off the hook. Your friends in the legal profession will prepare to embarrass themselves to save you and their briefs, but you are still accountable to the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Not one of those who spoke said anything about what they were getting from government. So you want to know? You want me to tell you tonight? Let me tell you. Michael Kwamena, Speaker in favor of Limo. State briefs 2015 to 21, $3.9 million. Prime Minister's personal lawyer. RHA briefs 2015 to 21, $167,000. Trinidad Petroleum Holding Limited, Chairman. Petrotrin, Chairman. Heritage Petroleum, Chairman. Caribbean Airlines, Deputy Chairman. And personal lawyer of Prime Minister Rowley. You understand when I tell you about the friends and the family and the eater food persons who had no shame in publicly talking before all those lawyers, groveling and begging to continue to eat our food. Gilbert Peterson, State Briefs 2015 to 2021, $10.3 million. Chairman of the Legal Aid Authority, Chairman of TAT, lawyer for Paria Commission of Inquiry, fuel bunkering contract. You all understand when I say there's an aristocracy, there's a PNM aristocracy, and when they're crying they can't find money to pay the workers, public servants, They can't find money to subsidize the fuel. Look where your money going. That's your money. That is public money. Your taxpayers' dollars. And if you don't pay tax, that is public money. It's not P&M fiefdom to give out to their friends and their family. Let's move on. Russell Martineau. Russell Martineau, man. I had so much respect for the senior counsel as a young person then. As a younger person then, coming up in the profession, we look at him with awe. Russell Martineau spoke there in favor of LIMO. State briefs, 2015 to 2021, $17.8 million. You understand? The fellow with the pocket in his, the square in the pocket. Terence Barrett, State Briefs, 2015 to 21, $794,475. Legal fees from RHAs, $690,000 and more, over $690,000. What is he? Chairman of Angostura? Self-proclaimed friend of Mr. Amo. Colin Kangaloo, partner at Fitzwilliam Stone, Furnace Smith and Morgan. Not only is a brother of Senate President Christine Kangaloo, but that firm that he works at received State Briefs 15 to 21, $1.192 million. You understand? You understand what went on there? Singing for their supper. We know we are not downturn in the economy. Everybody's monies are going down, but they know one people they could get work from is who? From the government, and they will pay. So they went there to sing for their supper, to sing for their briefs, to eat a food, to grovel and beg. Ravi Ratiram, State Briefs. This is Ravi Ratiram. State Briefs 15 to 21. TT $5.3 million. Ravi Nanga, another Ravi. State Briefs 2015 to 21. 499,000, over 499,000. RHA Briefs. You know what is RHA? You understand? Regional Health Authorities. $4.8 million. And chairman of WASA. Chairman appointed by whom? All these board chairman and so on? By this government. Romney Thomas belongs to the firm Hobson's. They got in State Briefs 2015 to 21, $876.8 thousand. And he is the former chairman of WASA. Farai Hove, I don't want to mispronounce his name, but I think you all know the young man. Masai. Thank you, Taka and Brian. He's a personal lawyer of Foster Cummins. He has been paid millions from CPEP, and he's a founding member of the Heliconia Foundation. So this and more I share with you tonight, so we will understand the travesty that took place on Friday. And that vote, as I say, does not exonerate Mr. Limo. So we expect Senator Amo to be honorable. In mature democracies, he would have done the honorable thing. He should have given up his resignation. But not here. We have a system here where the P&M, state offices, they feel it's personal property. People feel they're entitled to hold these positions, to operate our institutions like their own royal estates. That is not what a republic is supposed to be. And so I say we are truly in a dark age when lawyers find a way to justify unethical conduct. Can you imagine where we've gone when these senior lawyers have gone so far to protect their briefs? And for a brief position, for a board position, for a contract, maybe even for tickets or for tickets in the grandstand up at the Savannah, that's how it works. This is the aristocracy of the P&M. That is the point I'm making to you. And we must unite to work to get them out of our country. Get them out. We must work. So we then witnessed this clueless press conference where the man was dotting the T's and crossing the I's. He came today more buff, playing victim at the expense expense of the nation. He even came and accused me of stopping him, the opposition, from stopping them from improving the health service. Now, this is the same man who said that Trinidad and Tobago has the best health care in the Commonwealth. But every time he's sick, where are you going? California. But we have the best, one for him and another standard for everyone else. Now he's saying it's my fault, healthcare is bad. I want to remind him that under my watch, we built 5 hospitals in the country. I want to remind him that. Cancer Center, Jill and John, Dr. Munilal with his ministry, we built these 5 hospitals. The Coover Hospital, the San Fernando Teaching Hospital, Arima and Point Fortin, and we finished the Scarborough Hospital in Tobago. We taken that too. We take credit for that. Then he came today and boasted about foreign reserves. They so distort and cherry pick things. They just throw out things and expect you to gobble it up. But we have a good team in the UNC, and they did some fact checking for us. So he's boasting we have foreign exchange now for what? 8 months or something. When I left, we had foreign reserves for almost 12 months, 1 year, when we left office. He boasted about foreign reserve. He didn't tell you that he has brought our foreign reserves down. When the PNM came into office September 2015, we had left net official reserves of 10.459 billion US. That is 71.12 billion TT dollars. That's what he left. Remember, they always say we left the treasury empty, we run away with the money, we fill it in a yellow van, I think it was. All the lies, all the lies. And what has happened now? Almost 1 year of import cover. And then when they came in after 7 years, Imbert and Rowley, the most recent data from Central Bank, says net foreign reserves as of June 2022 now, just a couple of weeks ago, has collapsed by $3.8 billion US. What do you know what collapse mean? Dropped down by almost $25.84 billion. Now stands at 6.7 US billion, TT 45.9 billion. So where that money went? Where has all that money gone? What did you do with all that foreign reserves? We want an answer from you. You must answer. While this has been happening, the foreign debt, foreign currency debt, increasing and increasing and increasing every day. That is debt we have to pay in foreign currency. Under this government, there have been no new initiatives to generate foreign exchange projects or to generate any revenue streams, any new ones, or to create any jobs. So sometimes if we don't laugh, say we'll cry. This man spent a weekend retreat, and the only thing he'd say afterwards is Kamala's fault for everything. I would like to ask, how much did you pay for that retreat? What did you achieve in that retreat? From your press conference today, absolutely nothing was achieved. But I'll tell you what they discussed. Somebody put this in my mailbox. Several MPs have been telling me, multiple MPs telling me, this is what happened. 1, they doubled down on the Prime Minister's defense of the Attorney General. Big up himself. The PM defends his ministers, they are untouchable. 2, they pointed out that budget 2023 is due and we are getting an election budget. 3, big up for Young for the amount of work and investment in the energy sector and in serving TNT. What work he did, what investment? Except through his brother that Wade Mark told you about, that went out, didn't come in. 4, discuss local government election is due soon. 2 corporations need shoring up. Sandy Grande, see our Sandy Grande closers here, take note. And San Fernando, take note. They refer to a committee previously established which had reported weaknesses in several seats and asked the ministers and the committee to identify work in those areas that needed to be done and to expedite it. To use employment, create employment, and small contractors from the area as a priority. Sounds like what? election hearing taking place. Asked MPs to send recommendations to Faris for projects in the targeted areas in Sangre Grande and in San Fernando. Active parliamentary session expected. MPs and ministers urged to ensure attendance in the various committees. Noted that while occupation of their chairs has improved, some MPs continue to spend more time in the tea room and God knows where else than inside the chamber. Inviting persons speaking to always highlight when the other side's benches are empty, especially when the leader of opposition is not in a seat, and speculate why. Commended the AG on spotlighting physical weakness of one MP opposite. I think that was me. You remember that when he said he's worried for my health? Why didn't he worry for his Prime Minister's health, who was missing for 1 month out of the country? So, yes. So listen, highlight. When they're talking, they must highlight when any one of my members is not in their seat. Speculate why. Commending the AG for spotlighting. So imagine this was a topic to say when Khadija not in her seat, or when Anita not in his seat, or Ravi, or whoever not in their seat. You think they were meeting on this retreat? Crime gone wild, prices gone wild, education sector mash up, economy mash up, and that's what they're talking about? What pettiness is this? And you are saying you are governing this country, only petty behavior in the retreat. This guy is like, he's just like little children playing with the lives of the citizens of this country. Said that they were disappointed in information being provided to the communication team. Well, I don't know what that means. They cautioned certain MPs seem to be unsure to which side of the aisle they want to sit, and reminded them that those people want your job, they are the enemy. One ministers and MPs more aggressive in promoting their work and that of their colleagues. Meeting scheduled for the next 2 months finalized. Constituencies to be heavily mobilized. If numbers are small, he will not be attending. To their retreat. There is more, you can see by red, I took out some of it. There's more. So when we take these fellas down to serious business in this retreat, this is what was going on. And I believe that's what they did, because when we listened to that press conference today, there was nothing coming out of it, okay? He talked about a mask, removing the mask, putting on back the mask, Vike policy making, don't know if he's going or if he's coming. He talked about crime. He came back with this rubbish about declaring a public health emergency as a plan to combat crime. You know the man, what he did? He just copied an internet talking point. And I don't know if and he threw it out to the public. And I don't know if anyone told him that is a 1979 concept that the CDC came up with in the United States. Threw it out here. When questioned by reporters there, he couldn't give one specific thing about what to be done, who to be done. And he talked about a committee, etc. Another committee that they come here, the roadmap to recovery committee. There are so many committees. What happened with the committee to develop the action plan based on the Judy Jones report? What has happened to that? So when smack hits in their face, or somebody will use a different word, and it hits the fan, they come up with a committee, and then boil down for a little bit, and then nothing more. So that's the grand idea, to stop the wave of violence in our country. Copy and paste from the internet. People are living in fear. People are being gunned down. People are being robbed. Homes are being broken into. Women and children are being killed today. We need solutions now, not another committee to go off into the sunset and we never hear from them again. As I say, how many Mama Guy committees he has formed. He talked about the subsidy now, the fuel subsidy. Now I'm sitting, why are you talking about the fuel subsidy? In April this year, the Minister of Finance made a statement in the Parliament about the fuel subsidy. And he talked about 840 million being the amount that might be needed. He has to adjust the subsidy, what is the word, recalibrate, whatever it is. to bring down the amount that we have to spend because we don't have the money, we don't have the money to pay the subsidies, we only have so much money, we have to decide. We have to share the burden. Exact words, share the burden. Talked about it. And strange thing happened. Whilst it is that it was recalibrated in April by the Minister of Finance, why are you making this announcement that you are going to put a cap on the amount of subsidy that the government will be responsible? Why? Why would you do that? In one view, Tax shared with me, it's like a non-announcement. It's not an announcement. Because you had already said from April, it's only 840, and if you put in a cap of 1 billion, well, you're okay inside. So that's one explanation, non-announcement. But it had me thinking, why would he take the time to talk about it over and over? And he spoke at length over the cap, and he also talked about a flow, which I don't fully understand. Maybe the economists can help me with that. So why did he do it? So I'm calling again for them to tell the country whether it is from the forecasting that the price of fuel will increase because the price of oil will continue to increase. They had calibrated on a $95 per barrel and came up with this 840 million in April when he recalibrated or whatever he did, reduce the amount of subsidy. Today he told us they're going to cap it, the fuel subsidy at 1 billion. What does that mean? For those of us who have seen price increases only 2 months ago, what does it mean for citizens who have seen flour increase by 33%, oil by whatever percent? It is higher fuel prices yet again on a suffering population. Is that what is going to happen? April 8th, I mentioned it before, Imbert stated the fuel subsidy at the price of US $95 a barrel, government would have to subsidize to the tune of $1.69 billion. Minister Imbert went on to state that this was unsustainable, and therefore he raised the price of fuel. Do you remember that? I think that was the 4th time they have raised it. 4 times? Yes. Based on those new prices at April 8, he then presented a subsidy estimate of 840 million, which is just under $1 billion. It must be emphasized that these price adjustments, he said, will require government subsidy of about 840 million in fiscal 2022. So I ask these questions on behalf of citizens. In the event the average oil prices surpass the $95 average that he has told us, a barrel, and the estimate surpass for the subsidy is over the 1 billion, what's going to happen? The price at the pump is going to rise. Why did he spend so much time about the cap? Because he said, well, you know, the US doing something to bring down fuel prices, so the fuel prices will come down, you know. Never mind the war and thing, you know, prices went up, but it's going to come down. So the 1 billion should be enough to cover it. No, Mr. Prime Minister, you're being less than honest to the country. And you took that time today, and I am saying to our country that they are coming again for more fuel price hikes that you will have to pay at the pump. They keep us forced on how much they have to spend, and then not take the focus off from the fact that it's your taxpayers' dollars that they will be using for the subsidy and others, because tax revenue, general revenue comes in. This cost is going to be forced on consumers at the pump. So are they once again going to be abandoning citizens without any protection from rising fuel prices? Young boasted on CNN about more revenue coming into the country. Yet the government has subjected citizens to higher fuel prices. Where has that extra oil and gas revenue gone? He lied about the refinery. Someone asked him, you know, we had talks about selling this refinery. So what's happening with that deal? He said, well, it looks like it may not work out, so we'll have to move on. So nothing soon. But listen, when they asked him, he said, listen, you cannot ask that in a vacuum, you know. When you ask about the refinery, you have to remember that the refinery was running at a loss, that we had to import oil, crude oil, to use in the refinery to refine. I don't know how many barrels per day he said we have to import, and the refinery was running at a loss, a waste of time. Shut down the refinery. Shut it down. Not knowing that was not only just those workers at the refinery be impacted and their families. We have seen now the repercussions for Lake Ashford. Because we have no bitumen and that was their main product, they have absolutely no revenue coming in whatsoever. Shut it down, clueless, visionless. And then, Prime Minister, I am asking you a question. How much is Paray paying now to import refined products? How much? You were crying that you were running at a loss in the refinery because you had to import crude. Prime Minister, do you know in Singapore, they have not one drop of oil in Singapore. And Singapore is one of the largest refinery sites. Amongst the largest refining is a place that deals in these refined products and so on. So one day had no oil, so there was nothing wrong in a model where we had some crude oil, but we had plant, we had assets in the refinery. There was nothing wrong in importing crude and refining, so you have value added onto it, which we could then sell for foreign exchange. Now what we have to do? We have to buy the refined products. At what prices? Foreign currency, high prices, to bring them here. Not making any sense? Not making any sense. You have killed the industry and you have killed the livelihoods of so many people. The Trinidad Guardian of 20th May 2022 reported documents obtained through the FOIA by the OWTU showed Paray spent an average of US $1.16 billion per annum on fuel imports. $1.16 billion US dollars to import the refined products. When it would have been us, now prices are rising for the oil, would have been making more forex selling oil. When the refined products prices are going up, that should have been a windfall and a benefit to us. Instead, from the high prices, what has happened? We lose and lose more. So he lied when he said that the refinery was running at a loss, but he didn't come to tell us the greater loss that we are running at now when we have to spend $1.16 billion on fuel coming from abroad. This is more than what Petrotin spent on importing the crude oil to produce products which we sold here and on the local market and in the CARICOM and other places as well. So you shut down the refinery to spend more money on importing fuel. Prime Minister, again, another case of dotting the T's and crossing the I's. Nonsense, total foolishness. The hundreds of millions spent to import fuel, you could have spent to protect the fuel subsidy. That could have been used to reduce the cost of living. You came today to say he wants to enact procurement legislation. This disgraced Attorney General is saying he shouldn't do it. And it begs the question, is this the same disqualified AG who lied on an affidavit in a Miami court and begged for forgiveness? He says, we have procurement. He said, people telling you again, meaning us always, the opposition, but we have no procurement legislation in the country. Yes, we have. Of course we have, but it's decades old. I started telling you that. There's an important thing in that part of procurement that is not contained in that old legislation, which was very important to include in this new legislation that we have. 7 years and counting, and they're still dotting T's and crossing I's and can't put it and then say they don't benefit, they don't benefit, they don't benefit. Because people say the PNM benefited. No, we don't. 7 years later, what is not in the existing procurement legislation is what is known as disposal of state property. And that is so important at this time. The refinery is state property. The procurement law has nothing existing about how you're going to go about choosing who you're going to sell it to, how you'll sell it, why, where, what criteria. The procurement law that was passed by us, still sitting there 7 years later, that they will not proclaim, will deal with like privatization of the Port of Spain, will deal with all the state assets up in Point-a-Pierre, all those bungalows and all the lands and the golf courses and all the state property that you cannot just pick it up and give it to your friends and your financiers and give it to the family and that PNM aristocracy, that there would be the rules to protect the people's assets. That is the patrimony of Trinidad and Tobago. So he says we have procurement. 7 years later, still cannot get it done. And then now I want to show you that whilst they cry they have no money, so they can't pay the back pay to the workers, and the man so foolish and dotish, saying he can't pay the workers because he have a big back pay to pay them. Well, how they get the back pay in the first place? If you had upgraded them and paid them each year, you wouldn't have a 7-year back pay backlog. You wouldn't have that. You wouldn't have it. So whilst you see in trouble catching your net, and as we say, food prices going up, fuel going up, everything going up, everything going up. Let me show something with you that we got from the Cabinet of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago, based on an FOIA from that legal luminary, Ravi Ratiram. Let's give her a round of applause. He's prolific when it comes to freedom of information. And this was, he asked for a list of members of Cabinet. He recused themselves from Cabinet meetings for the period 9th September 2015 to 1st February 2022. We had shared some of this with you before, but now it's updated up to February of this year. Can I tell you the total number of recusals, number of times ministers of this government recused themselves? I'll tell you that in a minute, but let us fully understand why they had to recuse themselves. And this is where we say there's a conflict of interest. And the conflict of interest means that they're considering some matter, some contract, some matter to take place that will impact on a friend or a family of the minister. It is usually a relative, a family member that these recusals were done for. The total is 265 recusals. 265 recusals. And the chief offender is none other than the all-purpose minister himself, Stuart Young. Number of recusals, 98 recusals. 98 recusals. When you add up 98 recusals and consider how many cabinet meetings they had, you'll see what was going on. This man, as you say, more outside than inside the cabinet. The second run-up, or first run-up, is Faris Al-Rawi, 58 recusals. So they're using this like a private enterprise to give out contracts, to give out things. Wade Mark read some for you tonight with the FCB matters, or is it the other one? The Jamaican company that Mr. Young's brother is in. Faris is about properties and so on, most of them. But also a very strange one, that he recused himself because they wanted to waiver some VAT and some taxes on an imaging machine. So I don't know if Faris have some shares in some hospital somewhere as well, or his family. So 265 will not go through the entire list, but this is disgraceful and shameful. And it's not sufficient to come to say it is legal to recuse yourself when matters affecting benefits for you and your family come up in the cabinet. This is where your money is going. When they're crying, they don't have money to take care of the children, to give them laptops, to take care of the medical and needs of people, all the things they cry they don't have money for. This is where your money is going. 265 recusals. And by the way, Mr. Rowley, you're not off the hook. Let me find out here. Less, but at least 8 recusals up to that date of Prime Minister Keith Christopher Rowley. So they're all in this business. There's a boys' club going on inside there. You walk out, you walk in, yes, you don't have the money. And you don't want procurement legislation, that's why I jumped off onto this. You 7 years, you will not have the procurement legislation because you all could continue to give yourself, pat each other in the back, boys' club, and help yourselves to the money of the state of the Republic of Trinidad and Tobago. And whilst and whilst we talk about money, I want to raise another matter before I close. Several matters, but I think we had enough for tonight. I want to ask Rowley and his government where the COVID money went. Where did COVID funding go? He is the only Prime Minister in our history. He has built nothing. He's improved nothing, but has spent billions of dollars. This is a man who attacked the UNC for building a highway for the people of the South, for building infrastructure in every part of the country. Attacked me for creating a hospital for sick children. Sick children. Attacked us. And when you ask forgetful Rowley why he has not done anything, he says, well, Kamala had more money. What we left you, I just shared with you. The billions we left you there just in reserves. I didn't have more money. What we did is we ran a better government than you can ever do. Let's look at this COVID money and count with me. Trinidad and Tobago, the government received just over $2.3 billion in international funding for COVID management. Where has that money gone? $2.3 billion from international funds. April 3rd, 2020, US $400,000 from CAF, that's the Andean Development Bank. That was 2.8 million TT dollars. April 15, 2020, another US 50 million from CAF. That was 350 million TT. April 24, 2020, US 950,000 from CDC US, another 6.7 million TT dollars. June 29, 2020, another US 150 million from CAF, working out to be just over 1 billion TT. July 2nd, 2020, US 100 million from the IDB, equal to about 700 million TT dollars. July 7, 2020, US 20 million from the World Bank, another 140 million TT. This brings, as I said, a sum total of $2.3 billion. And this does not include another $9 billion that they withdrew from the HSF. You remember that? Where has all this money gone? Who benefited from this? We need answers, and we will file under the FOIA to get answers to these questions. So in March 25, 2020, they drew down US 1.1 billion, about 9 billion TT dollars from the HSF fund to manage COVID. They told us that. They told us that in the parliament. That is a total of 12 billion TT dollars. What was this money spent on? That initial total of 2.3 billion and 9 billion drawn down from the HSF. Where has it gone? That's plenty money, you know. Plenty money, and all of this is in 2020, in 1 year. Where has it gone? What was it spent on? Which health system improved? Did you bring back our citizens from all these countries where they were suffering? Did you repatriate anyone? How many tests were done? Did the larger part of the population receive grants? Did small businesses receive aid? Were essential workers compensated? How many laptops provided by the government for children? Where was the money spent? Stop playing, you all forget this, and tell us the truth, because we are coming for you. We will go to court if we have to, wait on FOIA and then to court to find out where you spend these billions of dollars for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. I close now to tell you, after listening to that press conference this morning, it was, as I always tell, like pulling teeth, you know, but so let me listen to this. It has now become clear that Rowley and his government are completely out of touch. Completely out of touch. They're not listening to the concerns. We face all these challenges. And I say, let us unite together, work together to stop the P&M eater food aristocracy and get back Trinidad and Tobago for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. The longer they stay, the more people suffer. And I want to thank you all for tuning in. I want to invite you, my constituents of Superior will be hosting a cricket tournament from Friday. Check my Facebook, we have it posted up with the flyer and the times and place. And you can win big money if you enter your teams. So please, you come into that. Well, I heard Kuva say they win already, but I don't know about that. We know how Shogunas win already, so let's get everybody will be winners. So please check my Facebook and you'll get the postings on that. As I close, I want to thank a very valued member of our Virtual Report production crew, Alderman Kevin Gibbs. A very happy birthday, Kevin. Thank you. God bless you all. Go safe. Thank you all very much.
Together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution. Come on, people. Come on, people. The voice of the people is the voice of God. The tables are turning, your eyes are opening. Welcome to the revolution.
People crying out for justice.
crying out for freedom. Everybody crying out for democracy. Now it's time to take